Hello and welcome to our Viewers Advisory Program. Today we are going to be reviewing the movie Ex Machina. And welcome back to those of you who have attended these Viewers Advisories before. We definitely appreciate you coming back to join us and hope that you will enjoy this panel discussion as well. Before we get started, I just want to start off by introducing everyone. I'll go first. My name is Cinnamon and I work at the Oxon Hill branch.
My name is Jade Campbell. I work at the Mount Rainier branch.
I am Kiana Turpin. I work at Spalding's.
My name is Bashir. I work at the Fairmont Heights branch.
My name is Lauren. I work at the Oxon Hill branch.
All right. So our very first question is going to be, did you all enjoy the film? Why or why not?
Yes. I think the best part of the film for me was the ending, actually, because I expected it, but it was still a twist on how, Caleb's fate was decided. Ava's trickiness and Ava's her intelligence is just her manipulativeness. Everything is just there that shows that she can pass for being an actual human instead of, a simple AI or a robot or anything like that. I don't know. The movie to me was just incredible.
I also liked the movie. Going into it, I read the summary, but I didn't think it was going to have the plot twist and all of that in the end. And actually, it was a few twists, with Nathan and him knowing the plot in the end, or Caleb and Ava's plot in the end, and then another twist with Ava turning on Caleb. So I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. And yes, it was an unexpected ending.
I liked it as well. I kind of went in blind. And so I didn't know much about it. I do know about Alex Garland, and I am familiar with his television series, or it was a short series rather, called Devs. So some of the layout and kind of some of the theme exploration I was familiar with, because I feel like it crosses over into Devs as well. I really, like I said, I just really, really enjoyed this film. And I don't know, I've always been interested in artificial intelligence, or had a little bit of interest in learning more about it, and have a few books at home, and of course watch quite a bit of sci-fi and read quite a bit of sci-fi. So this was fun for me, and I liked it.
Yeah, I wasn't that crazy about it.
Really?
But
Yeah.
I thought we were going to have everybody giving it a thumbs up.
I thought this
it's
would be
usually
you, bro.
This was one of the better movies.
I thought Bashir would be on this one.
Yeah,
What?
I'll tell you why I wasn't crazy about it. So visually it was stunning, no doubt about it. The special effects, to see this, this, let's just say android or whatever, this AI individual, be basically see-through, and I thought that was amazing how they pulled that off. Still don't know how they pulled that off. So visually it was beautiful, even where the majority of the movie takes place up in the mountains in his beautiful underground mansion, if you will. So that was really cool. Had this whole Google thing going on with it, with this guy. He's this gazillionaire, and he's got all this money to throw around. And so, so the way he was living was definitely cool and stuff. But I felt like the movie was pretty straightforward. I didn't find it was, there weren't a lot of twists and turns in it for me. I wasn't totally thrown off. And to me, it just seemed like a really straightforward sci-fi movie. It seemed more, what's the word, mainstream, as opposed to what I'm usually accustomed to with an A24 film, where I really don't know, what's about to happen. There's a lot of foreshadowing in this, which was kind of obvious,
Right.
especially when the really rich guy basically tells Caleb not to be so trusting of this AI that he designed. So I mean, the writing was kind of on the wall in a lot of places, and the cast was really thin. The cast was very thin.
That's true.
So
Like 3
yeah,
people.
yeah. So it wasn't that deep for me.
It's funny that you said that because it was really early into the movie where I realized Nathan's, I guess the woman that he was with, that before I realized she was an AI as well. And once I realized that, I was like, wait a second, he's just making these AI women to have and just to keep for some reason. So I get you on the foreshadowing and how it was kind of just like straightforward. So I was like, oh, okay. I saw that coming. I seen that coming a mile away. She started ripping that.
I didn't see any of it coming, so I guess Ava fooled the heck out of me because she manipulated me. Honestly, I was thinking that her and Kayla were gonna run away into the sunset forever and just live happily ever after, be friends or something.
But if you notice, I think this is right. And like all of her daydreams of going outside, it was just her. Like
Her, so that's
Caleb
true.
wasn't there at all. She was saying,
That's
"Yeah,
true.
I want to do this. I'm gonna look like this on our date." But it's just her outside, free.
Right.
But that's why I believe her, because she was like, this is what we're going to do. I want to go here. Or what did she say? She wanted to go to the street intersection or what have you.
Right. And
And
people
she's like, are
watch.
you going to go with me? And this is what I'm going to wear on my date. So I'm thinking, she's going to be with him. Yeah, she had me fooled.
Right. And I wanted to touch on what Bashir said about like the set. I actually like Googled where it was filmed at because I just thought it was so beautiful. I was
Pretty.
like,
Really
wow,
is.
like, and it was filmed in Norway, if anybody wants to know that. It was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And when they were like flying in a helicopter and he was like, well, tell me when we get to, where his house is at. He was like, oh, we've been flying over his
Estate.
house for like the past couple hours.
Yeah.
And I was like, Caleb, you in way over your head, bro. Just go home because. But I enjoy the film. I don't know the number of films that we've watched, but I think this is probably my favorite one.
Yes, this was
yes. And honestly, I was so excited for this discussion because I thought that everybody would like it. Like, I feel like it was one of the, other than Midsommar, I feel like this is one of the other A24 films that was like widely received by everyone and like talked about a lot. So
I don't know. Going into the
I
film,
really enjoyed it.
I felt the A24-ness, like from doing all these other videos with you guys, watching it started off pretty like relatable and realistic. Like we were just in the plot with them. It seemed a little gritty as well. So I was like, wait, this is completely A24. Like everybody just feels like they're just living. Like it doesn't seem like anybody's acting right now. It feels like this is just natural.
Okay.
At the end of the movie, did anybody think she was going to do anything to the pilot? Maybe it was just me.
I didn't think so. Because I was like, how is she going to get out of there?
Because the thing is, the only person who knew she was a robot was Caleb.
Was him. And that's why she
left him. She's like, man, I'm going to start my life. Get out of here.
Right. Yeah. So, Bashir, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lauren.
I was just going to say, like, for as much as I like it, I do kind of agree with Bashir that it is a pretty mainstream plot line. And I guess for me, like I wasn't surprised, but I still really, really liked it. There's still some really great moments in it, and how it was structured. And as we'll talk about later, some really great scoring that happened, as well as another musical cue, which is also part of a memorable scene. So we'll cross that bridge when it comes. And I see some smiles. So I feel like people know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I Bashir, you talked about the cast being a little thin. I did want to touch on how did you guys like the three like central performances? Like, did you all have a favorite character? Did you think that any of the characters could have been more dynamic?
Mhm.
What did you guys think? So we have
Like
three central ones, and then we have I can't remember the other one, Kyoko. So we have Ava, Caleb, and Nathan, and that's pretty much the only people we see for the whole film. So how did you guys like that? Did you dislike it?
Yeah, I mean, um, I thought that Caleb could have had more dimensions to him, um,
Mhm.
especially when he was questioning whether or not he was an AI. Like that was kind of cool, and had they kind of went in that direction,
Right.
I think I would have felt a
Okay.
different sort of
Okay.
way, because then that would have made sense to me, because he's saying that his parents died together in a car accident. So now I'm thinking,
That's a good
oh, this
thought.
guy sent him out into the world.
Right, to
And
test
Right.
them.
yeah, now he's
Mhm.
coming back. So I was like, yeah, I'm feeling this. And then I'm like, okay. And then you're like, yeah, nah, I'm real. I was like, oh, this is trash.
Oh
That's a good thought.
But
That's a
there
really
was
good
like
thought.
a hit, like in the beginning, or not in the beginning, once he got to Nathan's little compound, there was a part in the movie where they like zoomed in on his back and he had like a scar
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah, 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 yeah.
from the
That was
exactly.
accident. So I was
And
wow.
like,
then,
That's what it
I
okay,
was.
think that
yes,
he's
Right.
real. I mean, I'm pretty sure because Nathan was he, composed two great AIs. So I mean, he could have just made the scar to, complete the story of Kayla. But I was like, he's real. And trigger warning, there is it's not a suicidal type of thing, but Caleb does slit his wrist to figure out if he is a
AI.
artificial intelligent robot. So just a trigger warning for anyone out there.
I did want it to go in that direction,
I did
Bashir.
too. I
I
thought it was
was
going there.
like, my
that's
fingers were
another good
crossed when that
twist.
happened. I was like, please, please let him be AI. And Ava is the one that's testing him for this whole Turing test. I was like, that's so awesome. And it definitely didn't go in that direction. And it was disheartening. But again, like, it's a standard sci-fi. So I was just like, oh, I'm gonna go with it.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay. Even though there were only like three characters, I didn't think that the film was really lacking. I think that if it had more people, it would have took away from the central idea that really the only people that we're supposed to focus on are Caleb and Ava. And Nathan is kind of there as like a facilitator, and he engages every now and again, and he's also kind of like woven into their plot as like a outside force that's kind of manipulating things. Because on one hand, he's brought Caleb in to say, hey, I want you to test to see if this AI could function in the real world. And then on the other hand, he's like, man, Caleb, she tricking you, bro. Like, she's tricking you. She does this, even when Caleb asks, like, why did you add sexuality to her programming? And he's just like, can we really have sexuality without, like, to be human is to have sexuality type of thing. Like, I guess he was saying it just lives in us naturally. So he was like, I could not make Ava without adding sexuality in a way. So yeah, I like the performances, the three of them.
And I like that it's insulated. Like the whole thing
Right.
is already isolated, and to have it with just those three characters makes it
Right.
even more like, I don't want to call it claustrophobic because it wasn't that, but it just kind of adds to the tension that's happening. And I agree with
Right.
you, Cinnamon. Adding more characters in there is just going to really kind of mess with that that tension that's already been built.
Right.
So I appreciated that, as well as kind of the small inclusion of Kyoko. I think that was
Right.
also really important.
Yeah, it was kind of like, to me, because it was so condensed to the three of them into that small environment, they didn't leave the mansion at all, that Caleb was kind of living in two different worlds. When he was talking to Nathan, they were outside in the beautiful scenery on the mountains, and there were windows, and there were all of these things. And then we go to his interactions with Ava. He's literally just in a basement. It's dark. There's no real, like, he doesn't even have plants in there. You would think that he would add something because he's in this beautiful environment. But even when Caleb first walks in, the first thing I said was, his room doesn't have any windows, and he's literally in the middle of this beautiful jungle type atmosphere. Like he should have at least one window, but I think he did that in order to make him also feel as isolated as Ava was feeling, maybe. So.
And I mean, they really isolate even those two even more, because the interaction between Caleb and Ava isn't one where they're in a room together. They're literally in separate rooms that are, it's separated by like a wall, but they're in their own individual rooms.
Right.
And it's just completely devoid. Whereas, like you said, when Caleb and Nathan are together, it's typically above ground. It's typically open. It's typically side by side or close in close proximity. And Ava isn't allowed to have that, which I also think is really interesting.
Right.
That she doesn't have that, and Caleb lacks that as well. So again, it really heightens. It heightens even sexual tension between the two of them, that lacking in being able to touch or be around anyone else. So.
Right, because they can't touch, but they're constantly like there's a heavy sexual tension, especially once Ava starts saying like, "Do you like me?" And then she puts on the wig and the clothes, and Caleb's like, "Oh my God, she's so beautiful," and I'm just like. He's a robot, sir.
It was set up that way. We saw that Nathan, got all of Caleb's search Google or what Blue Book search results and all his pornography results and stuff like that, and made the perfect woman just for him. Yeah. And then once he realized that, I feel like that kind of. I don't know. I was hoping that opened Caleb's eyes, but it didn't, because he was still thinking Ava was going to, save him and be on his side. But then she just dipped on him.
The only reason that I don't want to call Nathan a villain, because I feel like that's what he's portrayed to be in this film, is because even though he brought Caleb in to help him test Ava, he's giving him advice the whole time. Like, don't get too involved. She may be just pretending to like you. Like, I actually created her from your pornography history. So, like, I'm also messing with your mind, but I'm telling you up front that this is what it is, type of thing. So, I don't know. I just, gives me chills thinking about that.
Yeah,
which leads me to my next question. Huh?
Yeah, I think Nathan got what he deserved.
That's a good question.
I don't know.
I mean, it's a really weird conversation, because I guess it's at what point do you start to recognize artificial intelligence as being completely sentient and has crossed over into a level of humanity. So it all depends on how we feel about Ava, or how the viewer feels about Ava and some of the other AI that we see that Nathan had created and
just discarded.
And killed off, like, and even in the language that we're using, like discarded versus killed off, like it's really just about how you view those entities.
Once the two AIs got together, they started having their own language. They had a language of their own. So it was like the fear that eventually they can really become a society and like overcome the people who created them.
It's just like the other movie with Will Smith. Artificial Intelligence, I think, is the name of it, right?
Oh, and iRobot?
iRobot?
iRobot, I'm sorry. iRobot, and they like turn on humanity or something, I believe.
I haven't seen that movie in so long, but I just remember
it's been a while. And the question that you asked, like, how does the set contribute to the overall feeling of the film? Even in iRobot, it's kind of the same thing. It's that the modern, very modern home, the billionaire type person, they kind of still have the same kind of setting. The robots are in the basement, secluded from society and things like that. It's almost like the same thing.
Right. Trying to isolate them from the world, but also have created them to engage with humanity. Like, you can't isolate a human and expect them to not, develop certain traits or personality characteristics. Ava was trapped essentially, and she had to use those manipulative maneuvers in order to free herself, which I think a normal human would do. So
Yeah.
But
Mm.
I still don't think he deserved it because for the simple fact that I mean he created this robot to think really well, to mimic the way human beings behave, but at the end of the day, it's like a big, beautiful IBM Watson. And so what crime did he commit? You know, he basically kept his remote controlled toy, you know,
He's doing his job.
put away in his closet. He kept it away, but he wasn't keeping anybody there against their will. Even Caleb was about to go home,
Mhm.
so he didn't commit any crimes that I think called for what he got at the end. Unfortunately, his robots turned on him, and that was unfortunate that that they could even do that. That should have been something he should have wrote in their code, that they couldn't kill,
Mm.
and then maybe he would have. Did I give away something?
No, no,
No.
no. I was just thinking about like code writing and the idea of gods, because that is a
Yeah,
discussion that pops up.
that's
And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
like,
that's a
is that really a part of our code, or is that a part
Right.
of the morals that we learn?
And I think
As
he just was too full of himself at that point.
oh,
He didn't ever think
absolutely.
that his machines would turn on him. He never thought that. And I feel like you mentioned nobody was being held against their will. Do you guys remember that scene where the AI was like banging on the wall and like
yeah.
tore her whole
Yes.
hand
Yeah, but
off?
it's not a
Yeah.
person. It's a toy. If my
That's true.
remote
I
control
mean,
car is hitting up against the door, am I keeping my remote control car? You know,
But the difference is like
prisoner? I don't think so.
she could communicate. She told him that,
right.
we don't like you. And my thing was, I feel like, he kept saying that their memories get erased. I feel like part of their memories stuck with them because every time they
Mm.
came back as a new person, even she went back and messed around with the skin. I felt like she started remembering, oh, this, I used to be this.
Yeah.
I feel like every time she came back as a new person, she just got angrier and angrier. She kept saying, how does it feel to create something that doesn't love you?
I mean, I think we're definitely inching closer and closer toward that reality, especially with things like Alexa and Siri, because they give these I don't know, electronics and these AIs these humanoid voices or human voices, and we connect with them. And I think what happens is we see ourselves in these objects because they're made to resemble us either in our voice or in the way we look, and so we have this connection to them because we have a connection to each other. And so that's where I think our wires get crossed, and that we can't separate, um, you know, you know, reality from I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for, fiction. So yeah, I think we're inching definitely closer towards that. You can see the
You
reaction
know,
that we all have. I mean, we all have some type of. We're using terms like "killed off" with regard to a robot. I think Lauren had pointed out. So yeah, I think the lines are getting blurred.
they
Yep.
definitely
Mm.
have those AIs that look like people now and can hold conversations with people. It's wild. It's, it's
And
scary.
it again, it's like all about your perception. It's how you choose to perceive what AI is. If you perceive it as
Right.
a robot, then yeah, it's fine to decommission, kill, however you want to look at it. But if it becomes something that we recognize as having agency and conscious and all of those things, at what point it you know at what point do we hold them accountable for certain things? At what point do we treat them in the same way that we would
Right.
treat human beings and give them that level of humanity? So it does definitely spark an interesting conversation. Um,
That's a really good point, Lauren. Because I think at one point, Caleb has to kind of accept that he has started to view Ava as more than a robot. Like he views her
Mhm.
as someone with agency, someone who has sexuality, someone who can make her own decisions and help him devise a plan to help her escape. So I guess my next question would be, do you guys think that, because before, Caleb, I guess he was trying to keep himself removed from the situation a little and only speaking about Ava in analytical terms, technological terms, and not
Yeah.
referring to her as a being with consciousness, but as their interactions go on, his emotions start to get involved, and he starts to question things that Nathan is doing to Ava, because he feels that guilt, and because he feels like she is more than just artificial intelligence. Do you guys think that Ava's manipulation played a part in that, or do you think that because of things that Caleb was missing, like the fact that he was single and the fact that Ava looked like women that he had been interested in before, do you think that forced him out of that analytical thinking and turned him more emotional, or do you think Ava kind of coached him by putting on the wig and flirting with him?
Oh, I
That's
would say
general
both.
human
Yeah.
programming that we can't override. Like all of those things, all of those parts of our lives are definitely going to impact, whether we want it to or not. They're always going to impact how we view a situation or how we view something else. At least that's kind of how I look at it. Is his singleness, the things that he is missing and the things that he is lacking, he is also going to project onto, be it human, AI, whatever. It's going to be projected onto that next person or thing. So yeah, I think it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
I agree, definitely. And obviously all the time that he spent with her was tremendous, for that week. That was his sole purpose of being up there. And so when this robot is designed to really appeal to him, and then you add the fact that he's spending all these countless hours interacting with it, you grow close to almost anything that you spend a whole lot of time with. It's going to be strong feelings either for or against, but this robot was designed to appeal to him, so it caused him to move in that direction. And so so
And definitely in isolation too, because this is done over the span of a week, but it feels like much longer.
Right. Right.
And so it, to the outside looking in, it's like, how can you develop this type of relationship with someone or something so quickly? But it is not difficult when you are completely removed from everything else.
And it's sort of accelerated in a way, because at first they're talking about very basic things, and Caleb is kind of in control of asking these very general questions that probably Nathan has come up with or helped him with. But then Ava kind of takes over, and she's like, well, tell me about yourself. I don't know anything about you. So I feel like having this this AI be, I don't want to say a confidant, but somebody that he's grown accustomed to talking to about his life, and now she's taking on this human form by putting on clothes and a wig. So I could see how he could lose the whole analytical thing and just see her as a person. Because it wasn't like she was giving him computer generated answers. She was having a real conversation with him. So I also think that it was a little bit of both, but I think that, like I said, Caleb was lacking a lot of things, and I think that he found comfort in Ava. So he just let his emotions he was vulnerable with her.
When she asked him about himself, I think that was the hook that got him.
The turning point.
When she seemed interested in him, because he didn't have a family, he didn't have a girlfriend, he didn't have people who showed a lot of interest in him. So I felt like that, coupled along with his hormones and isolation, just kind of threw him off.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and I think pushing him to answer like certain questions that he was very, very short on, but she was like, no, that's a lie.
Right.
And forcing somebody to kind of dig into themselves and really get at the root of certain things, I think that also kind of endears you to someone as well, because you feel as though they are helping you not only they're helping you kind of get to know yourself a little bit more.
Right.
And I think that that's something that you're like, that's someone that I want to be in my life, because they're doing this for me. And so I don't know.
Helping you move past the discomfort.
Yeah.
To be more honest with yourself, really.
Yeah.
I think he and anybody else would have been at a huge disadvantage going up against this I mean, what is essentially like, a Google search engine in a humanoid body, robotic body, because imagine this thing has access to all information on the internet. I would imagine books of psychology and other things
Mhm.
at its disposal to use to formulate conversations, to get you to think a certain way. So I mean, I couldn't beat Google like in a Jeopardy game. So if I can't beat Google
Right.
in a Jeopardy game, how am I going to beat this thing? Uh, when they have access to all this information, and so I think that's the scary part. That and this is how I think these things can, in some ways, um, take over, because information is power,
Mhm.
and those who have the most information at their disposal are certainly at an advantage. And so, yeah, I think it was he and anybody else would have fell to this robot and fell under its spell, and its
Right.
influence. It was he was outmatched.
Because just imagine, because that takes me into the next question I want to discuss with you guys. Is that what did you guys think about the scene where Nathan hinted, or where he pretty much said, well, I think Caleb asked and Nathan kind of hinted that he created Ava based off of his porn history. And I just started thinking about how we use our phones so much for literally everything. Our phones and our computers to look up everything. I could be talking right now and I could mention a spatula. And then maybe once I
Oh
open
my
Facebook,
God.
there's an
Hmm.
ad for a freaking spatula.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
So just think, like, if Nathan hadn't hacked all of the phones, when he says like I hacked into all of the phones and just took all
Yeah.
of that data, and all of these companies know about it, but they couldn't say anything because they're doing the same thing. Just imagine
Yeah.
if he hadn't done that and he had created a male robot and he didn't know that Caleb was or felt intimidated by men, and he was talking to a male robot and he never was able to open up, but he knew all this information, what kind of women he liked, what kind of things he was searching for on the internet, what kind of voice would appeal to him, and things like that. So like Bashir said, like, information is really powerful because he had all of this at his disposal. He's the head of this super big tech company with access to tons of information at any
Everything.
point in time, and so that puts him at an advantage. So do you guys, like, what do you guys think about that? Because I know that you all nodded your heads like, yeah, Facebook is like all
Yeah,
knowing.
it's scary.
Oh, it's every search
Yeah.
engine.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
every search engine, every computer that you use.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
don't know if you all have seen, I think it's The Social Dilemma. It's on Netflix.
I heard
Hmm.
about
Just
that.
to give us another suggested movie, but it talks about how people are being paid to have you keep your phone on you and have those ads and things, when you're on the phone and you're
Hmm.
talking to friends and things, how those ads just pop up on
Yeah.
you.
Hmm.
As soon as you wake up in the morning and maybe you look to see what time it is, you'll get an email for those spatulas that you've been
Right.
wanting.
You
So
need breakfast?
it's a
Use a
very
spatula.
deep
Right.
thing. Like, you're never alone,
That's a
and
great that's a great documentary. I have seen it,
you
and
I
it
haven't
it's really
seen
good,
yeah,
it.
and they
it's
get paid
yeah,
a lot of money
yeah.
for that.
These are a lot of them are people who actually left the industry because they didn't like the underbelly of
Right.
what these tech companies were doing. They said
It's
this
scary.
this is unethical, and so yeah, this definitely would be a good recommended movie to see after watching this one that we're
Okay.
talking about.
And
Yeah,
I'm
it's
gonna
on
take a look
Netflix,
at
you
that.
said?
It's on Netflix.
Okay.
Yeah,
yeah, it's a
you'd be
documentary.
surprised.
It's really good.
Burner phones use them.
Yeah.
I'm not
I
getting
was
no
having
burner
a
phone.
you pull it out at work and people are like, what is she
like,
doing when
like,
she
what are
clocks
you
out?
doing?
She's sitting there
Oh
using a flip phone.
Toss it.
I'm too
What
poor.
petty
I'm too
business
poor
is
for
she
burner
involved in?
phones. Man. I'm telling you, I'm gonna be broke by the end of the week. I'm like,
Oh my goodness.
It's crazy. I mean, every single thing. Mm.
Yeah, I feel like it like leads into a bigger conversation about me and my one of my friends was having a conversation about like wearable technology.
mm,
Mm.
Because I have like a smartwatch and I don't wear it to bed, but I remember she was saying, um, in a few years they're probably going to start trying to test out chips, like putting chips into people.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And I, for one, am against that, but I just think that as people, like especially our generation, the generation that grew up with the internet and we have phones and we have this and that, Siri, Alexa, all of that, like we're not living off the grid. If the government wants to know where we're at any point in time, they could probably find out. We're using debit cards. We're surfing the internet. We have cell phones. We have jobs where we clock in and out. Our location is never unknown.
And I
Correct.
just
Exactly.
tell
Google
one
Maps.
story.
Everything has your
One
location on it.
story. One day I was driving on the highway near the Pentagon, and I got a flat tire, and I'm like, oh my God, let me try to call AAA. And in 5 minutes, somebody was there, and I was like, wow, like, are you from AAA? And the guy was like, no, we see you. And and
yeah,
he was telling me because I was near the Pentagon,
yeah,
that they saw me and they sent somebody to help me.
That's interesting, but I would imagine apps like Waze as well will detect when a car is pulled over, and if these tow companies have Waze, then they can see, oh, there's a car stranded right there. And so yeah, again, we're all connected on the internet in some way, shape, or form, and we're all connected.
And a lot of times when we download these apps, we don't read what they're saying before we agree. And they're saying like, girl, we're going to share your information with 8 different companies. You ready? And as soon as you start using it, your location, your interests, things that you're ordering from that site are being shared with other people. And they're just exchanging all of this information about you. They're throwing
like
all of these different ads.
Everything free isn't free.
Yeah. Actually, that was the central theme in the social dilemma. They basically say that that while you think that the app is free, they're basically making money off of you.
Your information.
Yeah.
Your information, your
and
activities.
they're making a lot of money.
Your friends list, all of that.
You become the commodity, basically.
Exactly.
It's scary. It's really scary. Which is why, like you said, Bashir, like I don't think that we're like, I think they already have AI, but I don't think that we're too far off from having AI that we may not even be able to tell that it's AI if we're not.
Janae could be AI.
Exactly.
Right
I thought that. Yep.
Janae could be AI.
Not today.
I am a robot.
Not today. Well, you do not pass the test today. Not doing that.
Giving itself up.
Oh.
Okay, so did you guys have any scenes that stuck with you after the film? Like scenes that made you go like, wow, like this is creepy, or I really want to talk to somebody about this type of thing?
So just two kind of came out for me. It was the time when she, of course, put on her clothes for him for the first time. To me, as the music is playing in the background, it almost feels like, in a sense, like she's dancing in a sense. I know that might sound weird.
Yeah, no, I got it.
But like she's putting on her clothes very gracefully, so that kind of stuck out to me. And of course, the end when she leaves him there and he's like banging on the wall, like, oh my God, she's leaving me in here. So those really stuck out to me.
And that could be connected to when the AI was banging on the wall for
yes, exactly.
My favorite part was when Caleb walks in, I guess, on Kyoko, and I guess she's undressing and he's trying to put her clothes back on. And Nathan comes in, he's like, don't waste your time doing that. But what you can waste your time doing is she likes dancing, and he just puts on the dance music, and they just start dancing. She starts getting it. I'm just like, what?
That was the scene when I realized that she was an AI.
Oh, I didn't. I still didn't know what was going on.
I just thought she really liked dancing. I thought she
I
really
was
liked
like,
dancing.
no, she's programmed to do this little dance combination choreography with him. Like, she's definitely an AI. I was like, that's when it clicked. I was like, she's a robot too? Wow.
Yeah, because when he's like, oh, she doesn't understand what you're saying, I was like, okay,
Right.
she just doesn't know how to speak English.
Right.
Yeah.
But then, yes, when she starts dancing, you're like, okay, she's done this quite a few times.
Exactly.
And interestingly enough, I think there was an article that was written about that, and they talk about how that scene, for as fun as it is, and how I guess it was pretty memeable for a while there.
Mhm.
But for all of that, they were like, it's really creepy because it shows you just how much control Nathan has
Yeah.
of this whole
Mhm.
situation. Like,
You know,
he
Mhm.
is the orchestrator of this
Yep.
entire dance. And I was like, oh, yes, that is rather frightening. And
Right.
just to tack on really quickly, so the song that plays is called Get Down Saturday Night. And it
ah,
is available on Freegal. It's by Oliver Cheatham or Cheatham. And it's look for it on the C'est La Vie soundtrack because it is not um Ex Machina is not actually available on Freegal. But
Okay.
later I'll talk a little bit about Ben Salisbury and Geoff Barrow and some of their other works. They've actually done a couple of other things with Alex Garland. And so their orchestral score is it's a little similar to the one that they did for Devs as well.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yes, that's another recommendation I want to throw out there. It's only available on Hulu, as far as I know, but it's called Devs. It's another sci-fi. It will fall into the sci-fi category, right, Lauren?
Mhm.
It's a limited series though, so it's only about 8 or 10 episodes. I can't remember the exact number, but it's a really good show. If you guys get a chance. But a scene that stuck with me, um, I guess it would be the scene where we are in Nathan's bedroom, and inside his closet are what I would think were like former sex robots that he's deactivated and just kept in his closet in his bedroom. When I saw that,
Yes.
I was just like, this man is sick.
That's all he was doing was making sex robots. I didn't want to say it, but that's
Yeah,
what he was
because none
doing.
of them were men, they were all women.
None.
And like Lauren said, the control that he had over them is just like, when you think about the overall movie, it's not a very happy movie, but you realize there are points where you're just like, oh, great, something good has happened. But then there's like this super dark side where it's like at any point, if Nathan feels like it, he can just deactivate it. He
Yeah.
can kill it. He can like take advantage of it. Like, so it's a very dark side to it as well. But that scene where we see all those robots in the closet, I was just like, wow. But then at the end, Ava is just like using the remnants of his past life to create this new beginning. So it's like,
Hmm.
Which is both like good and also very frightening that she's
mhm,
taking pieces, like different pieces of each of their bodies.
right,
So it's a very twisted liberation in a
Mhm.
in a sense for like them and for her.
right,
Because I felt a kind of way when I was watching that. I was a bit uncomfortable.
yeah. It was kind of
Hmm.
like she was dumpster diving in the failed experiments of Nathan, and
Yeah.
now she's just about to take these new skins and start a new life.
Well, she did a good assembly.
Yeah, she did. She
She
was looking pretty
did.
good.
Mm.
She didn't look like no robot to me at the end. I was like,
She had
Ava,
on a cute outfit.
outfit.
Right.
okay. Right. New hair, okay.
How about her arm being
Sure
fixed?
She
did.
was smiling, she was ready.
Yeah.
But when she took that arm back,
Oh yeah, she got that arm repaired quick.
no, what was creepy to me was when Nathan first like hit her arm off, and when he hit the other robot, like they had no reaction. They're just staring at him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't feel it. And it was just so creepy because they look so real, but then you realize, oh man, they don't feel any type of pain.
Right, right.
Well, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
What themes did you guys notice? Like any themes that stuck out to you? So a theme that stuck out to me was just how technology can kind of turn on you. Like,
That's cool.
it's all fun and games. Nathan was having the time of his life in his little mansion below the ground with Kyoko and Ava. And in the end, they are literally his demise, or his
Mhm.
desire to test out his creations was his
Mhm.
demise. And so, he's surrounded by all of this technology, and at the end, like, his undoing was someone that he supposedly had all this control over. So that was the thing that I noticed, that kind of the darker side of technology, you know.
I would say free will and agency are other
Mm.
ones
Mm,
that I noticed, both with Caleb and with Ava.
right.
Speaking of technology turning on you, the other day, my car just decided to just roll the windows down, like out of nowhere, like all
Same.
four windows just. And so I
What?
come back to my car and I'm like, "Yo, who's been in my car?"
Oh, you weren't in the
Had to go
car.
back to the video, scroll through all of this video, and then all I see is my windows go down after a certain point.
Oh, wow.
I said, "What?"
Goodness.
So that's technology turning on you.
Your car is developing consciousness, and it was hot.
It was.
Maybe that's what it was.
It needed
Maybe
some
that's what it
air.
was. Maybe
Your
it was a beautiful
upholstery
day that
needed to
day.
breathe.
It was a beautiful, wonderful spring-like day that day. You're right. It could have been it.
Just wanted to feel that sun,
Right.
Yeah.
cool breeze.
Mm-hmm. And give somebody a new car.
Right.
Take me.
Needed a new owner.
Out
Okay,
of
guys,
here.
before we go, I have one more question for you guys.
Mhm.
So before Ava puts on the skin from the, the old other robots or whatever, do you think that she passes the Turing test? So if she hadn't put this skin on,
Mhm.
could she function in the world as a human, or did she absolutely need to like put that skin on to look like a human so that people would accept her?
Yeah.
Yeah, she needed to have that skin on to be accepted. And like I said, I mean, I think he even spoke to that point. When I say he, I'm talking about Nathan and how he said basically, because the guy said, why do you have to design them like, women and this, that, and the third? And he said, well, I could have did a
Mm-hmm.
box, but you can't really connect with a box. And so I think it's
Right.
really important if you want to get buy-in from the public, that you have to make these things resemble us either in the way we sound or the way we look, and that's why you have these Alexa and Siri sounding like us as opposed to having robotic voices.
Mm-hmm. And they don't just narrow it down to one region or one country. I had a British Siri at one point. They
Wow.
have a North African Siri. It's
Wow.
like it's deep. They want, because they want you to relate to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep.
I think she still passes the test. It's
I
just
do
the
too.
skin is
Yeah.
an added layer or
Right.
an added necessity. I mean, she could wear long sleeves and jeans if she really
Right.
wanted to, but for how she maneuvers through life,
She's
she
a
definitely
first
passes that
class.
test.
I think she passes too, with or without the skin, honestly. Because like I said at the end, I don't think I said it, but at the end I was really surprised. Like, she fooled me. If I was Caleb, I would have been locked up too, because I really would have felt for her. Like, oh my God, he's keeping her locked up. I have to help her. Even though I just feel like Caleb went about it so he
was just vulnerable.
Caleb was he was. I feel like if he was anybody different, then nobody would have died. I feel like he would have went home. Nathan probably would have still been doing his shenanigans.
Mm-hmm.
Ava would have still been locked in.
Yeah.
Yeah, she appealed to his bleeding heart for sure.
Mm.
For sure.
And in 1 week,
Right?
got him in a week.
Man, I feel like when you're in like a certain stage of loneliness, you'll latch on to anything,
That's
like
true. That's
like
true.
Lauren said, they were in a isolated situation. He was single, he didn't have family. All of these things just created the perfect storm.
And even the distrust of Nathan, I think, also
Yep.
pushed
That's
them
where they
closer
bonded
together. It's
Yeah,
like,
she
oh
turned
yeah,
him
this
against.
It's funny how she was the one manipulating like the security and everything like that, but all she needed to do was tell him that one little thing: don't trust Nathan. And or he's not your friend.
Yeah.
And despite her being the manipulative one at the start, he just fell right into the trap.
Yeah. She
Nathan's right there
seed.
being honest with him the whole time. Nathan even told her what I thought was a joke about him killing a bunch of people, but he didn't laugh about it. He didn't take
At
it back.
all.
So Nathan was being honest 100% from the start.
He was very transparent, I think.
But it's the behavior. That's where the distrust comes from. Is
That's right.
his narcissistic behavior? Yes, Bashir, is that narcissistic behavior, which honestly Ava displays as well. She has those same tendencies, which also would make her pretty human. Like people would, they may not like her, but they would see her as humanistic because those same behaviors are the behaviors that we see in Nathan as well. But I think that's what makes it so easy to make Nathan a bad guy, is he's a narcissist. So you're like, oh yeah, bad guys like him, they deserve that. Bad guys like him, yeah, we need to go against him. I get that. She's right. He is bad.
Right.
But so it doesn't matter how. Oh, go ahead.
He took his narcissism and he went on his own. He lived by himself. He took it. He was like, I'm not gonna bother nobody with this.
I mean, he bothered somebody.
He bothered, yeah, bothered that one. Oh, geez, poor Caleb.
He bothered somebody.
Yeah, I was at first going to say, I wouldn't have fell for it like Caleb did. I would have been able to understand, the difference between, this thing being real and not real. But then I caught myself. I said, you know what? Had he fashioned this thing in the likeness of someone who was near and dear to my heart,
right,
I don't know if I would be able to resist the temptation to free this AI. I don't know, because I think human beings we're emotional beings, and so while we are intellectual and we think, we do have a heart, and so we utilize both to make our decisions, and usually one overrides the other. But like I said, if it was made in the likeness of someone, a relative who maybe had passed away, who was dear and dear to my heart, surely I would want to see this person freed and not being held against their will. So I could have felt for that too, but just not for that individual. I'm not getting in trouble for that individual. But yeah.
I think even it wouldn't have to even look like that person, Bashir. If somebody has a compilation of all the attributes of someone that you care about, you're definitely going to feel a connection with that AI or with that person, and you are going to want to save them because they remind you of somebody who is near and dear to you or who you care about. And so that instinct to free or to save is going to kick in automatically because of that.
Yeah.
Even more so.
I agree.
Right. And I feel like, it's nothing wrong with saying that you wouldn't have fallen for it. Like, I feel like that's regular human, I don't want to say arrogance, but like when you're watching a horror movie and you're telling the girl to run and you're just like, man, I would have never did that. But have you ever been chased by somebody wielding an axe? No, you haven't. So you don't know what you would do in that situation. You're watching it. You can't be necessarily objective about it because your feelings are involved as you're watching it, but you're like, no, I would never do that. But you never know the circumstances that could force you to do the same thing that Caleb did, to do the same thing that the girl that fell in the woods Jason was chasing after. You never know.
That's right.
You never know.
Oh, yeah, I probably would have done
the movie doesn't go that far, but do we think that Caleb is rescued by anyone? Not at all.
I thought, if anything, Caleb, if they did happen to find him, Caleb was getting pinned for that murder.
Right. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I was like, ooh, she's real
I didn't
bad.
think about that. My God.
She's real bad.
How is he going to explain that and sound not crazy?
Right.
How is he going to explain that?
there was an
he might
AI.
if there's cameras or something.
I was about to say, if they had cameras.
Show them that.
Yes, like
He's
the
like, yo, these
camera.
robots are crazy. I won the
That's
contest. I don't know this guy.
But she has the ability to shut stuff down though. So I don't know if during that time that was a time of like a blackout.
She did have
the
it
power
shut down
outage.
because he couldn't open the doors.
Yeah.
Oh,
And did the cameras
So
go out?
yeah, whenever
Mhm.
she was able to
cameras
shut
go
down the
out.
grid, the cameras go out.
That was well thought out, wasn't it? Just the
The only
writers, yeah.
Yeah, the only time Nathan, or the reason why Nathan was able to kind of catch what they were doing was because he said he used like a regular
Right.
digital camera.
So that.
So, I mean, she covered up her whole crime
Right.
and she pinned it on someone else and went to live her life.
Mm-hmm.
AI. Can't live with them, can't live without them.
Oh my goodness.
Right.
What a closing line.
That's a quote of the whole program right there.
Right.
Can't live with them, can't live without them. That's awesome. I love it.
My goodness.
Did you guys have any closing remarks? Anything else you wanted to mention about the movie?
Well, make
Well,
sure.
oh, sorry. Go ahead, Laura.
No, I was just gonna say, make sure you check out some of the other works by Ben Salisbury and Barrow on Freegal. They did the score for Annihilation, and like I said, they did the score for Devs. The standout tracks on this would be the closing track, which was called Out, as well as Ava's theme, which I think Out kind of has a piece of that inserted in it. So definitely check that out when you have an opportunity.
Cool.
Thanks, Lauren, for always plugging the scores.
So good.
And if you're into scores, please check out the scores for this movie and other A24 films on Freegal. It is free, and this movie Ex Machina is also available on Canopy for free. It may also be on Amazon Prime if you're not into free stuff, but I would encourage you to watch it for free on Canopy. And I think that's it. Anybody else have anything else to say before we part? All right. Well, I thank you guys for joining me, and I thank you, viewer, for tuning in to our discussion. I hope that it was as lively as you were anticipating and that you got some good perceptions out of things that we talked about. And I hope that you join us for our next A24 film, which will be soon announced. All right. Thank you guys, and see you next time. Bye.
Bye.